Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 a.m., exhausted yet unable to sleep, haunted by the question of whether your day was productive enough? There's that familiar ache in your chest. Not quite anxiety, not quite sadness, but a peculiar emptiness that follows you even after checking every box on your to-do list. We've mastered the art of filling every moment, optimizing every hour, squeezing value from each minute like it's currency slipping through our fingers. Yet beneath the carefully curated LinkedIn updates and the hustle harder mantras we whisper to ourselves lies a question too terrifying to fully articulate. What if this relentless productivity is actually stealing something essential from us, something we won't recognize is missing until it's too late? The alarm pierces the darkness at 5 a.m. Your hand reaches for the phone before your eyes fully open, already calculating how many emails you can answer before your morning workout. The productivity apps glow in the dark, their interfaces designed to make you feel simultaneously accomplished and inadequate. You've become fluent in the language of optimization Pomodoro timers, habit trackers, efficiency hacks, tools that once promised freedom but have somehow become your masters. The modern religion of productivity didn't announce itself as a faith system. It arrived quietly, disguised as rational self-improvement, as the natural way of being in a world that never stops. We converted without realizing, adopting its rituals of morning routines and its sacred texts of self-help literature. Its commandments, maximize output, eliminate waste, optimize performance, now feel like natural law rather than human invention. Our ancestors measured time by seasons and sunsets. We measure it in completed tasks and output metrics. The spreadsheet mentality has colonized not just our work lives, but our most intimate moments. Sex becomes another form of performance. Friendships become networking opportunities. Even rest is rebranded as recovery, valuable only insofar as it prepares us for more production. The body keeps the score, though we pretend not to notice. The tension headaches, the digestive issues, the mysterious pains that doctors can't quite diagnose. These are the physical hieroglyphics of a soul trying to communicate that something is profoundly wrong. Yet we silence these signals with more productivity hacks, more caffeine, more notifications that keep us tethered to perpetual doing. Friedrich Nietzsche warned of those who were industrious as bees, but also as stupid as bees. The hive mind of productivity culture creates exactly this, a collective busyness that mistakes motion for meaning, output for worth. We've become so efficient at producing that we've forgotten to ask what we're producing for and at what cost. The most insidious aspect of productivity culture is how it has privatized our exhaustion. We experience our burnout as personal failure rather than as the inevitable outcome of an unsustainable system. I just need to manage my time better, we tell ourselves, as though the problem were technical rather than existential. The spaces between activities, those formless moments of genuine idleness, have been systematically eliminated from our lives. We've developed an almost phobic response to unstructured time. The moment a meeting ends early or plans get canceled, we instinctively reach for our phones, desperate to fill the void with more input, more output, more anything but silence. What we call time management is often just the illusion of control in a world that fundamentally terrifies us with its uncertainty. The perfectly organized calendar becomes a talisman against chaos, a way to pretend that we can predict and direct the flow of our lives. But life has never respected our schedules, and it never will. The tragedy isn't just that we're exhausted. It's that we're exhausted while missing the very experiences that might actually nourish us. The unproductive conversation that unexpectedly touches the soul. The aimless walk that leads to a moment of clarity. The wasted afternoon that becomes a memory we treasure decades later. Remember when you used to lose track of time? Those summer afternoons as a child, when hours disappeared into the simple joy of existing without purpose. The capacity for deep play, that state of complete absorption where the self dissolves into the activity, wasn't trained out of you overnight. It eroded gradually, replaced by the constant awareness of time as a resource to be optimized rather than an experience to be lived. Productivity culture performs a subtle psychological surgery. It separates your worth from your being and attaches it instead to your output. This transaction happens so gradually that you barely notice as your sense of intrinsic value is replaced by a spreadsheet mentality. You become what you produce. The days when illness or exhaustion prevent you from producing become existential crises rather than natural rhythms of a human life. The language we use betrays this transformation. We don't simply rest, we recharge. We don't have conversations, we have catch-ups. Our hobbies become side hustles, our passions become personal brands. Even our most intimate relationships get colonized by productivity logic. We invest in them, measure their return, and optimize our social circles for maximum benefit. Carl Jung warned that hurry is not of the devil, it is the devil. The constant acceleration of pace leaves no room for the unconscious mind to process, integrate, and create meaning. Dreams require empty space. Insights emerge from silence. Creativity blossoms in the fallow periods we've systematically eliminated from our lives. The metrics we track shape the lives we lead. We measure steps, screen time, tasks completed, emails answered, quantifiable outputs that our devices can easily track. But what about the quality of our attention? The depth of our relationships? The moments of genuine wonder or transcendence? These remain unmeasured and therefore increasingly invisible in our calculated lives. The most painful irony is that our obsession with productivity often makes us less truly productive in the ways that matter. We mistake busyness for effectiveness, motion for progress. We respond to 50 emails but fail to write the one thing that might actually matter. We attend countless meetings but miss the quiet moment of insight that could change everything. Kierkegaard spoke of the sickness unto death, not physical death, but the spiritual death that comes from disconnection from one's deepest self. Productivity addiction creates exactly this condition, a life so full of activity that it has no room for meaning. We become strangers to ourselves, unable to answer the simplest questions about what we truly desire beyond the next achievement or milestone. The body rebels against this alienation in ways both subtle and dramatic. Chronic fatigue, mysterious autoimmune conditions, anxiety disorders. These aren't just individual health problems, but collective symptoms of a culture that has lost touch with the natural rhythms of being human. The body remembers what the conscious mind has forgotten, that we were never designed to function like machines. What terrifies us most about unstructured time is not boredom, but confrontation with ourselves. In the absence of constant doing, we might have to face the questions we've been outrunning. Am I living the life I truly want? What am I afraid of? Who would I be if I stopped achieving for a while? The productivity treadmill keeps these questions at bay, but it cannot answer them. It usually begins with a breaking point, not dramatic enough for others to notice, but unmistakable to you. Perhaps it's crying in your car before entering the office, or realizing you can't remember a single genuine moment of joy from the past month, despite all your achievements. The body and soul have ways of forcing the conversation the mind has been avoiding. Man cannot stand a meaningless life, wrote Viktor Frankl. The existential vacuum that productivity tries to fill eventually reveals itself. The metrics and achievements that once provided such satisfaction begin to ring hollow. The promotion, the completed project, the external validation, They provide briefer and briefer moments of relief before the emptiness returns, stronger each time. This awakening is uncomfortable precisely because it threatens the identity you've constructed. If you are not your productivity, then who are you? If your worth isn't measured by output, then how is it measured? These questions feel like standing at the edge of an abyss because they challenge the fundamental operating system that has been running your life. Albert Camus suggested that the fundamental philosophical question is whether life is worth living. Productivity culture neatly sidesteps this question by keeping us too busy to ask it. But eventually, the question finds us anyway, often in moments of forced stillness during illness, burnout, or those rare vacations when we finally disconnect long enough for our deeper selves to speak. The initial response to this awakening is often to double down on productivity, to work harder, optimize better, find the perfect system that will finally make the emptiness go away. It's like trying to extinguish a fire by adding more fuel. The temporary high of achievement becomes a drug we use to avoid the withdrawal symptoms of facing ourselves. What makes this awakening particularly difficult is its isolation. Productivity culture is the water we swim in, so questioning it feels like questioning reality itself. Friends and colleagues may respond with confusion or concern when you express doubts about the hamster wheel you've all been running on together. But this is just how life is, they say, unable to imagine alternatives to perpetual doing. Yet beneath the discomfort of this awakening lies a profound opportunity. The cracks in your productivity armor are not signs of failure, but portals to a more authentic existence. The exhaustion is not weakness, but wisdom. Your body and soul communicating a truth your conscious mind has been unwilling to hear. Remember the last time you experienced flow, that state of complete absorption where time disappears and you are fully present? Notice that flow doesn't come from frantic multitasking or optimized schedules. It emerges when you're so deeply engaged in something meaningful that the boundary between doer and doing dissolves. This is not productivity as we've been taught to understand it. This is presence. The question shifts from, how can I do more? To, what deserves my attention? This is not a retreat from engagement with life, but a more discriminating form of engagement. Time is indeed finite, but treating it merely as a resource to be maximized misses its essential quality as the medium in which your life actually unfolds. There's a particular quality to time when it's not being measured, a spaciousness that allows the mind to wander, to make unexpected connections, to simply be. Consider how many of your best ideas have come not while staring at a screen or during a scheduled brainstorming session, but while showering, walking, or staring out a window. These moments aren't productive by conventional metrics, yet they're often the source of our most valuable insights. The Japanese concept of ma, the meaningful space between things, offers a different way of perceiving emptiness. In Western productivity culture, empty time is waste to be eliminated. In the Eastern tradition, these spaces are not empty at all, but pregnant with possibility, essential to the rhythm and meaning of life. The rest between musical notes is what creates the melody. Small acts of temporal rebellion become necessary medicine. The afternoon spent reading poetry instead of answering emails. The meeting canceled in favor of a walk without your phone. The day of doing nothing that you don't post on social media or justify to anyone. These aren't escapes from responsibility, but reclamations of a more human way of being in time. The present moment is filled with joy and happiness, wrote Thich Nhat Hanh. If you are attentive, you will see it. This simple truth becomes revolutionary in a culture obsessed with future achievements and past performances. Productivity fixates on what hasn't happened yet or what has already occurred. Presence dwells in the only moment that actually exists. The body offers wisdom here if we learn to listen. Notice how it responds to different qualities of time. The tension that accompanies rushed efficiency versus the relaxed alertness that comes with absorbed attention. The body knows the difference between hurried productivity and meaningful engagement long before the conscious mind acknowledges it. Relationships suffer perhaps the greatest damage from productivity obsession. Real connection requires a kind of inefficiency, the willingness to follow conversational detours, to sit with someone's pain without trying to fix it, to enjoy company without agenda. Love and friendship exist in a different economy than productivity, operating by gift rather than transaction. There's courage in reclaiming your right to unproductive time. In a world that equates busyness with importance and output with worth, choosing to step off the treadmill, even temporarily, feels like a radical act. It requires facing the uncomfortable question: if I'm not constantly producing, am I still valuable? The answer emerges not as an intellectual conclusion, but as a lived experience. In those moments of genuine presence, whether in conversation, creation, contemplation, or simply being, you rediscover a self that exists prior to and independent of your productivity. This self doesn't need to justify its existence through output. It simply is. This isn't about abandoning meaningful work or responsibility. Rather, it's about transforming your relationship to time and activity, moving from compulsive doing to conscious being, from quantity of output to quality of attention. The most meaningful contributions often emerge not from frantic activity, but from a centered presence that brings your full humanity to whatever you're engaged in. What if the spaces between activities aren't empty at all, but the soil from which meaning grows? Consider how a fallow field isn't unproductive. It's regenerating, gathering nutrients, preparing for future abundance in ways invisible to the impatient observer. Perhaps our unstructured time serves a similar purpose, essential though immeasurable. There's a profound difference between being busy and being engaged. The former fills time, the latter inhabits it. One leaves you depleted, the other, even when challenging, contains its own replenishment. The shift from productivity to presence isn't about doing less. It's about bringing more of yourself to whatever you're doing, whether that's completing a project or simply watching clouds pass overhead. The goal of life is not to be productive, wrote Alan Watts. It's to be alive. This simple truth cuts through the tangle of productivity culture like a blade. We've confused the means with the end, mistaking the accumulation of completed tasks for the accumulation of a life well lived. But a life is not a resume or a to-do list. It's a lived experience, a series of moments that either contain presence or don't. The capacity for genuine rest becomes revolutionary in a world addicted to productivity. Not rest as recovery for more work, but rest as a legitimate state of being in its own right. The Sabbath traditions across various cultures weren't just religious observances, but profound recognitions of a human need for regular disengagement from productivity, a collective agreement to step outside the economy of output and into the economy of being. What emerges on the other side of productivity addiction isn't laziness, but discernment. You begin to distinguish between the work that depletes and the work that nourishes, between the commitments that align with your deeper values and those that merely fill your calendar. This discernment isn't selfish, it's the foundation of sustainable contribution to a world that desperately needs your gifts rather than just your labor. The most radical act may be redefining success itself. What if success isn't measured by achievements or acquisitions, but by the quality of your attention, the depth of your relationships, your capacity for wonder and presence? What if the most successful life is not the most productive one, but the most awake one? There's grief in this transformation. Grief for the time lost to mindless productivity, for the moments of connection sacrificed on the altar of efficiency, for the parts of yourself neglected while you were busy optimizing your output. This grief deserves acknowledgement. It's not an indulgence, but a necessary recognition of real loss. Yet alongside this grief grows something new, a more spacious relationship with time, a deeper connection to your own humanity, a capacity for joy that doesn't depend on achievement. You begin to experience moments of what the Greeks called kairos, not chronological time that can be measured and optimized, but the right or opportune moment, time experienced as quality rather than quantity. The hidden cost of always being productive was never just burnout or exhaustion. It was a diminished experience of being alive. The reclamation of unproductive time is really the reclamation of your full humanity, your capacity for wonder, for connection, for the kind of deep attention that transforms ordinary moments into sacred ones. This isn't about doing nothing. It's about making space for everything that productivity culture taught you to sacrifice, but that makes life worth living. In the quiet dawn, before the notifications begin and the world starts demanding your output, there exists a moment of pure being. Your worth in this moment isn't determined by what you'll accomplish today or what you achieved yesterday. It exists prior to and independent of all that. The tragedy of productivity addiction isn't just that it exhausts us, it's that it blinds us to this fundamental truth. You were never meant to earn your place in this world through endless doing. The most precious things, love, meaning, wonder, connection, aren't produced. They're experienced. They emerge not from optimized schedules, but from a quality of attention that productivity culture makes nearly impossible. Perhaps true wisdom isn't learning how to do more, but remembering how to be more fully present in whatever you're doing, whether that's creating something meaningful or simply watching the light change across the morning sky, a witness to the world's ongoing miracle of simply being. Your life isn't a project to be completed or a problem to be solved. It's a gift to be experienced, one unrepeatable moment at a time. As the sun sets on another day filled with tasks and obligations, I invite you to place your hand on your heart and feel its steady rhythm, a reminder that before you were a worker, a creator, or a producer, you were first and always a human being. This beating heart doesn't ask if you've earned its next pulse through productivity. It gives freely, continuously, asking nothing in return, but that you honor the life it sustains. Perhaps our greatest act of courage in this exhausted world isn't pushing harder, but finally giving ourselves permission to be as generous with ourselves as this heart is, to beat, to rest, to simply exist without justification. The most profound revolution begins not with changing the world, but with changing the way we inhabit it moment by precious moment, breath by sacred breath. You are not the sum of what you produce. You are the depth of what you experience, the love you share, and the presence you bring to this brief, beautiful journey we call life. And that, dear friend, has always been enough. If something in this message resonated with your soul today, I'd be deeply grateful to hear your story in the comments below. How has the pressure to always be productive shaped your life? What small moments of presence have you reclaimed? Your voice matters in this conversation. And if you'd like to continue exploring these deeper questions with me, please consider subscribing to this channel. Not as another task on your to-do list, but as a gentle reminder to pause, reflect, and remember what truly matters on this human journey. Thank you for giving yourself the gift of presence by sharing this time with me today. It's the most valuable currency any of us can offer.